Yeah, so we will be reading Parshat Tissa this morning, and in some ways, we can think of this morning's service almost as a tale of two cows, as it were, because we are going to be reading about the golden calf. And today is also a special Shabbat called Parshat Para, which literally means the portion of the cow. And that is not referring to the golden calf. That's actually referring to the fact that Pesach is coming really soon. And historically in biblical and post-biblical times, in order to do the Korban Pesach, the Paschal sacrifice, you needed to be ritually pure. And in order to be ritually pure, you needed to do this ritual of sacrificing a red heifer, which is the special maftir reading this morning, which we'll get to afterwards. So two very different contexts for holiness ascribed to cows or calves or oxen or whatever it may be, which is a really interesting juxtaposition in and of itself. But we'll save that Dvar Torah and exposition for another day. Ki Tissa, also, it's worth mentioning, it's really not just the golden calf. There's actually, I would say there's a lot of beauty before and afterwards. We start off with the collecting of the half shekel, which we read as a special maftir a couple weeks ago before Purim, again with an eye towards Pesach and the idea of a census and accounting for all of the people. And we read a little last bit about the Mishkan and the building of the tabernacle and the appointment of Bezalel as kind of the head artisan, which again has a beautiful resonance that's pretty unique in the Torah all of itself. And there's actually a lot of famous verses that come from this week's Parsha, some of which we've already said this morning, because part of the Shabbat Amidah, the paragraph of Vishamru, what we also sing together as Kiddush after services, that actually comes from this morning's Parsha as well. We'll actually pick up in the verse that immediately follows Vishamru, but that can be found at the end of chapter 31. And then, after we get the Vishamru, after we get the beautiful kind of recitation of Shabbos observance, that's when Moses comes down off the mountain and sees what has gone on in his absence with Aaron and the people and the building of this golden calf, and trying to personify the presence of God in a way that they were not supposed to do. And of course, we get the really monumental shattering of the tablets, whether they kind of slipped out of Moses's hand in his own, shock and disappointment, or whether he threw them down in anger is one of the things we can discuss a little bit later. And then, of course, we get a lot of anger, both from God's perspective, who wants to destroy the entire people and rebuild from Moses, and also from Moses, who basically rallies the tribe of Levi around him and kind of rampages through the camp to cleanse the people of these sinners, which is kind of what I would put into the sphere of the ugly parts of this parsha. And then we get some more kind of, I'd be interested to hear whether people reflect on these as beautiful aspects or not. But we get a lot of what we come to work into our liturgy, both our high holiday liturgy, our fast day liturgy, of kind of the framework for God forgiving the people. And some of the most kind of distinct verses that we say on Yom Kippur come from this morning's Parsha, which of course raises the question of can you get forgiveness without having some sort of fall from grace or sin in the first place? And if you can find beauty in those words of forgiveness, does that lend a little bit of redemption to whatever the wrong action was? Which I think, something to think about. And then, of course, kind of closing the full circle, Moses goes back up on the mountain, gets the second set of tablets. They're a little bit distinct from the first in that he seems to play a more active role in the inscribing and the writing, as opposed to being directly from Etzba Elohim, directly from the finger of God. And he comes back down the mountain. So we certainly have, we have as is common in the Torah narrative, we kind of push God right to the edge, and then step back, and then we kind of get at least some measure of reconciliation. There's also just one more tie-in to this morning's parsha that I want to make, and then we'll turn over to the Torah reading, which is going back to Parshat Shkalim and going back to the idea of a census taking, or at least kind of accounting for all the people. And I spoke about this at some more length when we read it as the special moth here a couple weeks ago. And for those of you who weren't there, or for those of you who perhaps don't remember, which is perfectly fine, one of the things that we really honed in on was the idea that it is this same amount of a half shekel for everyone in the nation, right? For rich and poor alike, that everyone was counted equally. And also, we read it over a month before Passover, again, in preparation for Passover, because things don't happen instantaneously, right? It takes a little bit of time to kind of galvanize the people and to get the half shekel to be donated, and to basically get all the people counted. And I was thinking about this as I read, or tried to follow, while simultaneously trying not to follow the continued battle over voting rights in our country, and thinking about what it means both to count every single person, or at least to give every single person the opportunity to be counted, and also how that can't possibly necessarily happen on one given day, right? And about how the Torah seems to give us a framework where we can expand that, right? Where we can give people a month or over a month for the chance to be counted, and to reinforce this idea that everyone in the society is counted equally. Whether you're rich or poor, you are equally enfranchised. And so thinking about some of the battles that are, going on a state-by-state basis, certainly, but kind of a pervasive battle going on in our country, like so many others, and thinking about where our Jewish values and where the values that we pull from the text really align with that, and figuring out how to make our voices heard on that, because I do feel that I don't think I'm making too much of a stretch from the Torah text to really get that idea of full and equal representation, which is hopefully something we can continually work towards, or at least hope that we don't take steps backwards from.